He asks, does sorcery among elves have different drawings? She replies, I don't know anything about sorcery at all. He's surprised by her words, even though she has a huge amount of mana. He begins explaining the basics of sorcery to her. He draws a very simple circle in front of her and says, this creates lightning if I add my mana to it. When he shows her, she's amazed. He says, this is the lowest level of sorcery. He starts adding more symbols to the circle to gain more control over the lightning. He adds mana, and this time, the lightning is greater and stronger. Then, he says, but the problem with this circle is that if anyone puts their mana into it, they can use it. So, we need to add a restriction so that only the one who drew it can activate it. She says, you added things outside the circle. Can you add things inside it too? He says, nice observation. The answer is both yes and no at the same time. If you do that, the mana will conflict and block each other, preventing the spell from working. But someone who can do it correctly is a person with complete control over their mana. She asks him, does that mean it's possible to nullify another person's spell? He replies, yes. And if someone can do that, they would be the strongest person in the world. But all of this is theoretical. No one even tries to do it because it's considered impossible. She says, I understand the basics of sorcery, but can anyone do it? He thinks she seems to have good talent and replies, yes. For sorcerers, the more knowledge you have, the stronger you'll be. That's why we set up traps and tricks to prevent anyone from stealing knowledge. Be careful if you touch any books here. She gets startled and becomes afraid of the books near her. He says, I'm joking. I disabled all the traps so they won't activate if you touch the books. She feels reassured and is happy that this is the first time Zugum has talked to her for this long. He says, because sorcery is the thing I know most about, I talked a lot. Then, she asks him, what will you do with all this power? Zugum is silent for a moment and replies, I never thought about it before, but I think I learned all of this to save myself. When I was young, I had no money or place to live, so I had to steal. Even then, I was better off than many others like me, because I didn't die. But one day, someone captured me because children were suitable for experiments. I managed to save myself from him. At that moment, I realized I had to become stronger to survive. Nevi looks down with despair and says, I could never become stronger. He says, if you're interested in sorcery, I can teach you. Suddenly, he feels someone entering the barrier around his palace. It's Shastel and her knights. He tells Nevi, prepare dinner. I'll be back. He goes out to confront them. On the other hand, Shastel